Be honest with yourself. Are you tired of the holy war chatter? Are you tired of analyzing BYU versus Utah, Kalani Sitake against Kyle Whittingham, Bear Bachmeier versus Devin Dampier? Well, in that case, this is not the show for you because we're talking all about that on a crossover edition of Locked On Cougars and Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Like a pig to slop, baby. Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to a Locked On Big 12, Locked On Cougars crossover. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. It's Jake Hatch of Locked On Cougars talking all things BYU. Thanks for making our shows your first listen every single day. We will start with just giving it a rest, man. Why should a Texas Tech fan, a UCF fan, a West Virginia fan actually care about the Holy War this week? Because, look, I'm giving it kind of the same coverage I did Utah and Texas Tech. That was the biggest game at that point of our season. Does it deserve all the pomp and circumstance that it gets? Then the two fan bases should just kiss already. Then, ultimately, BYU has the edge. I think BYU has the edge. And, he's a BYU homer. I'm going to be there I'm going to be like Rob Lowe NFL hat, just wearing a Big 12 shirt. Hope both teams have fun. I'll tell you why analytically, though, that is the case, and Jake can help back it up possibly. Then the best bets, the Big 12 this week. Jake and I will go over how you can win some money on FanDuel. If you hit subscribe, we get to keep our jobs. Jake, give me I read today, I think, Kyle Whittingham's family getting into a fight in 2009 with BYU fans, to cheerleaders that are tackling fans, to water bottles that hit cheer coaches in the head. This game. It took Kalani Sitake coaching at Utah and Kyle Whittingham playing linebacker for BYU. This game is a monstrosity there is no greater crossover between two power conference teams, in my opinion, than BYU and Utah. Why should the spotlight of every Big 12 eyeball be on Provo this weekend?
Well, okay, the three incidences you just referenced, Drake, I think netted one person a trespassing citation. Speaking of the fan that jumped out of the stands and got his ass kicked by a Utah cheerleader. Then we had the Kyle Whittingham's family situation that police pleaded with people not to file anything or talk about it. It got out afterwards, but no police reports were filed. And then you mentioned a water bottle hitting a cheer coach in the head. That netted a person an assault charge. So, hey, life's good here in Utah when it comes to this. Now, I say all that to say
that's all in like the last 15 years?
25.
Some odd, right?
Yeah,
okay, great.
Yeah. The thing is, this rivalry transcends almost every boundary that there is out there. Religious undertones, literally families split down the middle, whether they're red and blue. We've got these coaching staffs and players who have gone between these two programs. And the simple fact of life is, we talk about it often here in Utah, is this is a 24/7, 365 rivalry. It doesn't matter how trivial the matter is. If you're a Ute or you're a Cougar, if you take offense to one thing, you go to war on one side and your buddies back you up, while the other guys, it's like what's that? Where they're snapping, and that play I'm thinking of in my head. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
But the Sharks and the whatever. This is a rivalry that exists in literally everyday life here in Utah.
Greasers? Is that right? The Greasers? Is that right?
Yeah, the Greasers or something like that. The Sharks and the Greasers or whatever. And that's the thing about this rivalry, it dominates literally everyday life here in Utah. And it's something that the Big 12 is learning very quickly. These two fan bases, they love to get after one another.
Yeah, so what makes this different? So give me this piece as well. Let's start here, actually. Talk to me. It was awesome seeing all the Utah fans watching the BYU game and vice versa. That's what this rivalry seems to be. Mm-hmm. Give me this is a sports show. We're not, a religious organization as a Locked On podcast network, but this is called the Holy War, and for good reason. Baylor and TCU wanted to be kind of this Holy War-esque thing and religious battle, the rivalry, if you will. Give me the religious undertone that makes this matchup different than any other rivalry in college football.
Well, the undertone is that the good guys in people's eyes, if you're a BYU fan, you're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and everybody who wears red on the other side are either non-members, ex-Mormons, or Jack Mormons. That is the religious undertone in all of this, Drake, if you're from the BYU side of it. Now, there'll be Utah people on the other side who flip over and say, no, I'm a very active member of the church. In fact, the recently deceased Russell M. Nelson, a Utah grad. There are certain Utah fans out there who are members of the Church of Jesus Christ who will say it's the school of the prophets, speaking of Utah, because the vast majority of members of the quorum of the 12 apostles in the church, presidents of the church, have all been Utah graduates. So there is this back and forth that exists because of the dominant religion in this area, in this state, speaking of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, that it dominates everything because it goes right in line with everything else with this rivalry, because these two programs 40 miles apart from one another. And as I mentioned, you can live right next door to a fan of your rival school and you want nothing more than to get one over on them. And you may attend the very same chapel, the very same church, and sit in the very same pew as that individual.
Yeah, I'm looking at a game this week that should be just as heated as it was last year, if not more so, now that both these schools are relevant. Utah last season at this point in the juncture, their year was effectively over. There was no way they were going to win the Big 12. We pretty much knew they were in bowl contention, but it would have taken a win against BYU, and the Cougars held them out of that. This year, 51% chance to win for BYU, according to ESPN, and at home. If you're a Cincinnati fan, what's the next wrinkle? What's the next firework? Like, is there going to be what can we expect? What sort of wizardry, I guess, will occur Saturday?
Well, okay, if you want to talk about Cincinnati here, because they're off to an incredible start, speaking of the Bearcats, Drake, is that they're watching this game because whoever wins this game likely has the inside track to make a run at the Big 12 title game. And Cincinnati's over there thinking, hey, we're dreaming of maybe getting to Arlington ourselves. You want to know who wins this game so you know what you're going up against, whether it is Utah with the win over BYU having the tiebreaker over the Cougars, or vice versa, with BYU holding a tiebreaker and knowing that you face them in the second to last game of the season out there in Cincinnati. There is intrigue across the board because this game, just speaking of the game itself, could determine who I expect will face Texas Tech in Arlington in December.
Yeah, this is going to be a huge, huge matchup. Glass half Ute, who is one of the many controversial Utah fans. I personally enjoy a lot of the tweets, whether it's the Alex Markham guy or Glass half Ute, where I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, when I sit down and eat my dinner, my beautiful ribeye steak that I've cooked on the Blackstone on my back porch, I don't give a hoot about any of these people. It's just this fake internet thing, right? And so you log on, you banter for a bit, you log off. If you do it in the way that most people should do this and have a rivalry week. Thought it was very funny. Our friend Glass Half Ute tweeted, Utah can't allow BYU to establish an actual streak with a third straight win Saturday. That would have rippling effects beyond just this season. I'm sure that will be walked back if BYU wins the game and it's just a one-off and Utah will recover next year and certainly win at home.
Well, that's the thing about this. He's not wrong about that, Drake, because if BYU does do that, that indicates that a freshman quarterback just beat Utah. It looks like the future is very bright for BYU with their offense led by Bachmeier. The NIL money that's flowing into BYU's coffers that Utah fans want to complain about incessantly and argue that it's all about tampering and that they're stealing players with paychecks. All of that goes right into play, exactly like Glass Half Ute is saying that. Yeah, he very well may try and walk that back should BYU win this game, but I'm with him on it. If BYU establishes a streak here, wins 3 in a row, that's going to spell some pretty tough scenarios for Utah fans to deal with.
Yeah, coming up, let's talk how BYU actually can win this game and then give you the best bets in the Big 12 this week. Locked on Big 12, Locked on Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by the beauty of Supply House. Look, man, I have been remodeling my home since February, and it's a tedious process, but Supply House makes it so easy. When I look around, I'm like, dang, my AC unit, my window AC unit in my office, which is a shed, it's a he shed, it went out. I need a new one, stat, and I don't want to go to Home Depot because right now I just like price-wise, I'm comparing. I'm like, wow, Supply House looks great. I need it now, though. Supply House, next day delivery. HVAC, plumbing, electrical items, all at Supply House. Need parts for a fast project? Supply House is next day delivery. It's that easy. Join the free Trade Master program today. Score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, dedicated support line. SupplyHouse.com to sign up for free. SH College 5 for 5% off your first order. SH College 5. SupplyHouse.com. Real people, real service. Today's show is also brought to you by, oh, that's right, FanDuel. Yeah, later on in the show, I'm going to give you my best bets in the Big 12. If you think BYU is going to win outright against Utah, you can win some money at FanDuel. NFL season is also here. Pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app and get started. FanDuel.com to download that FanDuel app and get started today at FanDuel.com. Download the app. Get started. That is Jake Hatch of Locked On Cougars, talking all things Cougars. Jake, this weekend, I think the big differentiator for me where BYU can beat Utah and why I do ultimately believe in a home game BYU will beat Utah, it's not even the atmosphere. Like I'm not going to lean on BYU fans alone beating Utah. This is a fairly disciplined team, a long-tenured head coach. They've been in some nasty environments, some heavy and hard environments to play in before. I think BYU will bring that this weekend, but I circle this. And here's something I keep bringing up. I'll continue to bring up, and we can get deep into this matchup. Defensively, Utah is 86th in EPA. That's an efficiency metric. 86th against the run. BYU, efficiency-wise, the number 17 most efficient team running the football. That disparity, that gap is glaring. And considering the way, whether it's giving the ball to a Roberts or a Kingston, or especially an LJ Martin or a Bear Bachmeier, BYU has a lot of different options out of the backfield to run the ball or get the ball into the hands of a Chase Roberts quickly, in essence, acting as a running back or an extension of the deep play calls for A-Rod. That's where I think BYU can truly control this game.
Well, and you're right. Not to, add some gasoline to the fire of this rivalry, Drake, but you know who invented EPA way back in the day?
Oh, my gosh. Is it like Lavelle Edwards?
No, it would be a guy named Virgil Carter, who once upon a time was a standout quarterback for BYU, went on to have a pretty decent career in the NFL with the Cincinnati Bengals. He wanted a way to be able to analytically analyze the game. So back in the 70s is when he invented this. And all it has done is decade upon decade upon decade since he went about building this with the help of some other professors and the like. It is proven to be, I think, maybe the most predictive analytic in all of college football. And you're right. Those numbers, they bear out that more often than not, EPA will tell you where you're going to have success, how you're going to have success, and quite frankly, who's going to win this football game. I say all the time that this is one of those rivalries, Drake, that you throw the records out the window. I know we have a top 25 showdown for the first time since 2009, but those predictive analytics, speaking of EPA and the fact that Utah's defense is ranked 86th, that is a worrisome number if you're a Utah fan, because that shows that BYU could get Utah's GOAT in terms of offense versus defense. And if BYU can get on a run at home offensively and start running the football in particular, that could mean a long night for Utah.
Now, let me be clear here. We just saw it on the graph if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening, we can certainly read out the important numbers here. But for Utah's defense, the number 7 in the country against the pass, and BYU is number 48 throwing the football. Now, 48 is not bad, and 7 is elite. But I don't think Aaron Roderick wants to win this game through the air.
No, here's the thing. BYU wants to run for north of 250 yards, shorten this game, limit possessions, keep Utah's offense off the field, and just score touchdowns and cash in every opportunity they've got in this game, Drake. They don't care how they get it. All they want is a W on that board and to be able to say 3 in a row.
Yeah, I think, again, I want to go back to what you said about EPA because I believe that you hit the nail on the head here. It to me, also is able to break down the barrier of strength of schedule a little bit. So a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, well, who did you do it against? Efficiencies don't really work that way. It's not like, oh, well, yeah, you were efficient, but it was against a bad team. Like, no, efficiency reads a little bit deeper into actually how good your football team is. And it's a telltale a lot of times of, and even into, I think Game on Paper does a great job of giving you this, even into how well you end drives offensively and defensively. I look at this. For Utah offensively, their average starting field position is their own 27. They do a bad job of flipping the field. For BYU defensively, they typically force opponents to start on their own 26. That's pretty good. That's 40th in the country. Utah's 103rd, meaning typically Utah's going to have bad starting field position in this game, and that's not what you want considering you're playing a BYU defense that grades so well.
And that's the thing about this, Drake, is BYU will yield yards between the 20s. There's just no doubt about it. You can watch any BYU game and watch teams motor up and down between the 20s. But when it comes crunch time, we're talking when you're backed up inside your 20 or you're inside their 20, speaking of the BYU's 20, that's when things get really difficult. Jay Hill has proven to be a very, very shrewd play caller and finding weaknesses in this defense. The other thing about this game, these two staffs know each other about as well as you possibly could hope for. These guys, Kalani Sitake was the defensive coordinator at Utah. Jay Hill spent over a decade playing and coaching at Utah. You also have Aaron Roderick, who's a BYU grad, but spent years at Utah as well. On the flip side, Morgan Scally, he knows intimately what BYU is going to try and do. These two programs know each other's systems because they essentially run the same system in many respects. The real variable is Jason Beck, a former BYU quarterback who's now the OC at Utah. But looking at that, Drake, yeah, if you can't find a way to find better starting field position, Kyle Whittingham talks about it all the time. He knows that the further back you start in the field, so the 27 is where you said that they usually start.
Average of 27, which is 103rd in the country, yeah.
Guess what? You can take a fair catch and get to the 25. That shows you that the numbers indicate that if you can get further up the field, whether you get into the 30, 35, the numbers bear out that you will have a better opportunity to score. So Utah, if they cannot find a way to win the field position battle in this game, it could go a long way to helping BYU potentially get the third straight win.
Yeah, before we move on to our best bets, my best bets and your reaction for this week, give me the players. That's a lot of conversation about the analytics and the numbers. Give me the Jimmies and the Joes that will lead to a BYU win and your final score prediction.
So the players that will lead to a win, LJ Martin and Bear Bachmeier, BYU's backfield tandem. Now, do I expect Bear Bachmeier to run it nearly as much as LJ Martin did, and they did last week? They nearly combined for 50 carries last week combined. I don't hope to see that, but at the same time, if it comes to it, much like the Arizona game necessitated, they will carry Bear Bachmeier and have that ball in his hands as often as they need to. But I fully expect LJ Martin to step up as he's done all season long and be the workhorse back BYU needs him to be in this game. The other guys I'm looking at, Isaiah Glasker and Jack Kelly. I'm sincerely hoping both of them are as close to 100% as they possibly can be and will be suited up on Saturday night, because that tandem of linebackers, well, we saw David Bailey, and I'm forgetting his name right now, right off the tip of my tongue, from Texas Tech. Who's the other?
Rodriguez, yeah.
Jacob Rodriguez. That tandem was able to bottle up this Utah attack, and that's what BYU's got to hope that tandem of Isaiah Glasker and Jack Kelly can do in similar fashion. That's how they're going to win this football game, is containing the offense and the rushing attack in particular of Utah, keeping Devin Dampier away from going for 100+ yards and the like. But it's much easier said than done against a vaunted Utah offensive line.
Here's the deal. I don't think that we've said anything, and this is, our friend JT Wister, so I think who both of us appreciate and respect. You mentioned BYU and Utah having a 70-30 split with the fans, and then
not a chance.
Right? I think it was brought to like 72% of the stadium or something as season ticket holders.
Drake, if it's more than 10%, I will be absolutely floored. That's beside the point.
So, and another piece of this is I don't think we've given you anything at this point you could clip. Like, there's nothing here that you know.
I say it all the time, clip away, because that means more people are going to watch me. We're
sure, but I just don't understand. Like, here are the hard numbers. Here are the hard athlete. Like, maybe the most I could do is tell you that, like, and we just saw the numbers. I'll pull it up really quickly again. Like, for whether it's Davis for Utah or Roberts for BYU. I mean, Roberts, 22 receptions, 420 yards. Davis, 39 receptions, 416 yards. So Devin Dampier being kind of your bell cow running back for Utah. Like, he leads the team in rushing yards this year. They haven't found, like, the ace in the hole who they can trust to go downhill the way LJ Martin can, or even break one like LJ Martin can.
I will say this. Keep an eye on Wayshawn Parker, Naquari Rogers. I've got a sneaking feeling that one of those two guys could break out in this game in particular behind that Utah offensive line.
Yeah, see, that's a nice thing to say. Clip that, Utah fans. And I agree. And even if that does happen, I still think that BYU has a good opportunity to control the game. And I said it on my show earlier this week, BYU could get down 10-0. Like, I could legitimately see BYU, the first couple of drives, these are going to be some of the best scripted drives of Kyle Whittingham's career to start this ball game. It could be 10-0, and we find it, 10-10 at halftime. And then 23-16 final score, 23-19 final score. You're like, gosh, that was ugly and terrible, but, like, welcome to the Holy War.
I was going to say, Drake, if this game gets outside of one score possession, it feels like, in terms of that final margin, it means one team turned the ball over an abnormal amount, it feels like, in this game. I really do think it's within 7 points.
No doubt. Coming up, the best bets for this week in the Big 12. This is Locked On Big 12 and Locked On Cougars. Oh, buddy. Today's show is brought to you by Mazda Standard. It is that Japanese craftsmanship that is so good looking, but alongside pretty good safety. Actually, the best safety, more IIHS top safety picks than anyone else. Footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same attention to how they craft every model. Like our players, we sweat every detail. Because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Mazda. Go check it out today. Move and be moved with Mazda. He is Jake Hatch of Locked On Cougars, and he is here as just kind of like a test dummy. We're going to go through my best bets in the Big 12 this week, Jake, if that's okay with you.
I make my own picks every single week, so I'm excited to actually, be able to play like the peanut gallery to yours.
All right, number one then. I'm going to go with Baylor money line at TCU. Now, look, here's what you're thinking. That's an insane pick. How in the world will the rival go on the road and win? I think a couple things working in Baylor's favor here. People are also like, oh, he's the Baylor grad. I don't give two hoots. Like, it just doesn't benefit me whatsoever to wax poetic about the Bears. I'm just giving you what I think is going to happen this week. I believe that Baylor has an opportunity to win this game, not just because of Sawyer Robertson. I saw how kind of putrid TCU looked against Kansas State last week. And also, the Baylor Bears, Jake, are much better on the road than they are at home. And a piece of that, Dave Aranda talks about it. His team feeds off the away crowd better than they do the home crowd. And for TCU, I don't think the home crowd's going to give them too much juice.
Here's the thing. TCU, I don't know what's wrong with them, quite honestly. Something's broken, though. It's not working. Speaking of the Horned Frogs, I actually really like that pick. I do think Baylor gets the win, and I think it's going to be fairly convincing.
Yeah, I do too. And I do like TCU. I love Josh Hoover. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks still in the Big 12. Hoover's
great individually. I'm just saying the entire, I guess, the entire product that TCU's got right now, it's not functioning the way I feel like it should be. But Baylor, I think, absolutely has the GOAT here.
Yeah, also, Baylor has the best offensive skill room, I think, in the Big 12, whether it's Bryson Washington all the way to Josh Cameron and those receivers, Kobe Prentice. I mean, you can name a myriad of those four guys. Michael Trigg is the best tight end in the Big 12 as well. Baylor's got a lot of options. They'll piece apart the TCU defense. 70 points, take the over. That's my first best bet. Jake agrees. I'm going to go Houston. -1.5 against Arizona. This is a pick that I was on early in the year. Anybody who's listened to this show will remember that I told you if there's a team to watch out for, it's going to be Houston in the Big 12 this season. I'm once again taking the Cougars in a game that I believe they will win defensively against Arizona.
It's going to come down to the defense because I just watched the other Cougars, speaking of the Blue Cougars, as I call them, speaking of BYU, really struggle against Arizona. That Arizona defense, I know that some people said, well, they feasted on lesser competition. Well, just ask any BYU fan how that felt as they fell behind by 10 points and had to put together a pretty incredible rally to win that football game. That Arizona team is really, really solid, but I can't take anything away from Houston either because you and our good friend Parker have been really crowing about Houston. I've been impressed with the Red Cougars, as I call them, and I like that pick. It's a sneaky pick, but I will also say this. I think Arizona gets the W.
Wow, okay. So Jake Cash is going to balance it out a little bit here. Then my next pick, and again, I think defensively Houston, and they still grade so well. Their analytics are awesome. Their EPA is incredible defensively. What could happen is Connor Wegman throws 2 interceptions. This final score flips. Houston loses by 3 or 7 in that event.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. It's like a 3-point margin.
Yeah, and that's what it could come down to is you can make mistakes against Oklahoma State like Houston did and still win by a lot. You can't do that against Arizona, and so that's where I do believe that Connor Wegman holds on to it. Connors, they established the run in this game. Houston does. They find a way to get it done at home in a noon Eastern game. UCF versus West Virginia. This is like William and Mary playing each other, like just William singular playing Mary singular. This is two teams that are still trying to figure a lot out. ESPN's FPI really favors UCF in this matchup. I think I do too. It's like the lesser of two bads. Yeah. I'm going to go with UCF -7.
I have watched West Virginia play quite recently against both Utah and BYU. I feel for Rich Rod. He is at a loss for how many injuries, and I feel bad for MP, speaking of Mountaineer Paul as well. The injuries have just decimated this West Virginia squad. I just think that it's a lost season already, and I don't know how it's going to get kind of back on track, but I do think UCF rolls.
Yeah, this is a get-right game for UCF to me. Their loss to Cincinnati was close. They were not good offensively. It took the last-second touchdown to make it close, but still the defense wasn't terrible. Cincinnati's offense is really good. 20 points is efficient, especially when UCF's offense couldn't get it going. Kansas, that 27-20 loss, surprised me. And even that Kansas State game, they hung around. I don't think the spirit or the will is broken for UCF yet. And still, West Virginia's lead passer, not on the team anymore. So that's a big problem if you're in Morgantown. I don't think it bodes well for our friends, Rich Rodriguez and company. UCF gets the win. They move above 500 and closer to a bowl game. Now, Texas Tech, Arizona State. Well, let's start here. I'm going to give you Texas Tech minus 9.5. This line has moved in Tech's favor a little bit after opening at 10.5 for the Red Raiders. Even if Sam Levitt plays, Jake, I just think Texas Tech is that much better than anybody in the Big 12 right now. I'm going to ride the Red Raiders until they prove me otherwise.
I'm with you. Here's the thing. Texas Tech's offense is fun, and it's really explosive in many respects, Drake. It's more about that defense. That defense is absolutely nasty. And I think Tech is they're all steam ahead towards college football playoff. If that defense continues to play the way it's playing right now, I won't be surprised if they make noise in the postseason in the college football playoff, because that defense can hold anybody down.
Yeah, this is also a 2 p.m. game in Tempe. We saw Texas Tech go on the road against Utah in a pretty hostile environment. I don't think they're going to see near what they got against Utah in Salt Lake from an atmosphere standpoint. And for Arizona State, a big piece of that is because they just lost 42-10. It's hard to get any fan base in the Big 12, kind of outside of BYU. It's hard to get any fan base to show up after you lose 42-10. That may very well be the case for Arizona State against Texas Tech this week. That's kind of a non-factor to me. And like you said, whether it's Will Hamlin or Baron Morton, the defense of Texas Tech themselves could put up 10, 14 points. It'll put you in position to score 10 or 14 points this weekend. Give me the Red Raiders. Even if it's 34-20, we're covering the 9.5. And my final best bet, we already waxed poetic about most of this. I am going BYU money line against Utah. And I think the question comes up here, since we have given so much about this game and so much predictive, whether it's metrics or guys to watch out for, the question becomes, is this total disrespect? Do BYU fans feel disrespected that Utah is a 3.5-point favorite?
I don't necessarily think so. I think BYU fans have watched this team struggle in the most two recent games that they have played, and they found a way to win both of them, speaking of the Colorado game and obviously the Arizona game. And I think it's left Cougar fans wondering, okay, how good really is this squad? Are they just kind of scraping by right now? So I understand the apprehension. I can tell you this, though. I'm sure that the fact that they're a home dog is not lost on this BYU locker room. That is being talked about in this locker room, whether it's Kalani Sitake or his player leadership, the captains and the like. They are talking about it. The odds makers are disrespecting us. They're picking the Utes to come down here and win on our home turf. We are not about to let that happen.
Jake, last question I have for you here about that game. So if Baylor was coming to town, I think there's some shell shock when you walk into BYU for a night game, these Vampire Cougs. I've just got that gut feeling, the thing in the back of your head. You're like, you know what? I don't think Utah's going to have that shell shock. Is the crowd going to be a huge factor in this game?
No, here's the thing. Two of the best home environments in the Big 12, if not the two best home environments, reside in the state of Utah. Speaking of Rice-Eccles Stadium and LaVell Edwards Stadium, these two programs, these two fan bases, these two teams, they are used to playing in front of raucous crowds, especially when it comes to away and home. I don't think that's going to play that much of an effect in this one. I know that BYU, I think you threw it up earlier, they're 24-3 in their last 27 night games. So the numbers bear out that BYU wins more than 90% of those games at home. But if there is one of those games that I don't think it affects this one iota, it's this one, because I don't think Utah is going to be in shock and awe with what LaVell Edwards Stadium and the crowd is going to bring.
Jake, before we go, shout out Wild Ute, shout out Tara Gardner, shout out Alex Markham and Glass Half Ute. Shout out all of our Utah fans.
These are some of my homies. I think there's a lot of Cougar fans out there that ask me all the time, like, do you get along with Utah? I get along with a lot of Utah fans. And quite honestly, I grew up, I'll tell you this much. One of my closest friends growing up, Drake, he was about as dyed-in-the-wool Utah fan as you will literally ever find. He's still that to this day. He and I bickered all growing up. We'd walk to and from school arguing BYU versus Utah and why this and why that. And it's been part of my everyday life, my entire life. I absolutely get along with my Ute brethren. I love it, and I'm looking forward to this game. It's one of my favorite games literally every single year.
Yeah. To Ivan, too. The list goes on here of the wonderful Utah fans.
JT Wistersill, Brian Brown. I can go down this. Steve Bartle, my compatriot at KSL Sports. We've got a lot of good people out there that I get along with very, very well.
Yeah. On top of that, it brings up, and I know we're at time here, Hannah Montgomery, 5th grade. She wrote an entire notebook worth of, what were those called? They had like the black and white dots on the outside. composite book or something. You know what I'm talking about?
Composition book. Yeah.
Composition notebook. She filled one with why Texas was better than Arkansas. And I was so mad. And a big piece of that was Mac Brown. And 2 weeks ago, when I got to sit down with Mac Brown for a half hour, I sent her a selfie. I was like, you know what? You were right. Mac Brown's good coach, good guy, good coach after all. So it's all, we all find a way to appreciate our rivals. Someday we all come around. Jake, where can folks find more of your work? I know it's a big week for you.
All things BYU. Check out Locked On Cougars wherever you get your podcasts. Also available on YouTube. If you want to check it out on social media, Locked On Cougars on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or you can follow me on social media on X or Twitter at Jacob C. Hatch.
Always fun. This has been, it always will be, Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. A crossover with Cougars and Dose Grande.